Have you ever stumbled across an old photo, maybe a school reunion shot or a faded vacation picture, and found yourself smiling at a face you hadn't thought about in years? Maybe you paused for a moment wondering, I wonder whatever happened to them. That's exactly what happened to me not long after I turned 60. I was cleaning out a drawer, one of those deep ones full of randomness, and there it was, a wrinkled photo from my early 30s. A group of us grinning like fools, arms around each other, caught in a moment of pure friendship. And that's when it hit me. So many of the people who once shaped my life, who laughed with me through awkward years and tough transitions, were now just memories. Not because anything bad had happened. Life had just taken us in different directions. Careers, kids, moves, responsibilities. We all got swept up in the current of adulthood. But standing there with that old photo, I felt something stir deep inside, a longing to reconnect. Not out of nostalgia, but out of a deeper realization, one backed by science, actually, that friendships, especially those long-standing ones, are essential for our well-being as we age. You see, research from Harvard's long-running study of adult development, which has tracked participants for more than 80 years, found that strong relationships are the single greatest predictor of long-term happiness and health. Not wealth, not fame, relationships. And interestingly, it wasn't just romantic or family connections that mattered. Friendships, especially those with a deep sense of shared history, played a huge role in emotional resilience and even physical health. So today, I want to share why I made the decision to reconnect with old friends after 60, and how doing so completely transformed how I felt about aging, about life, and about myself. But before we keep going, I'd love your help with something. If you're enjoying this video so far, comment Y below. If not, comment N. It helps me know what's working and what to improve. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Now let's dive deeper. What struck me first when I started reaching out to old friends wasn't how different we were, but how quickly we fell back into an easy rhythm. Of course, we'd changed, gray hair, grandkids, maybe a few new wrinkles, but the laughter, the inside jokes, they came back like no time had passed at all. It was like picking up a conversation we'd only paused a few days earlier, even if it had been decades. And here's the kicker, those moments weren't just emotionally satisfying. They were actually good for my brain. A study published in the American Journal of Public Health found that maintaining social ties in later life may reduce the risk of cognitive decline. Social interaction stimulates the brain in complex ways. Conversation, shared memories, even playful teasing. It all lights up neural pathways and keeps the mind agile. One afternoon, I had lunch with Jim, a college buddy I hadn't seen in almost 25 years. We were sitting at a little diner we used to frequent, and I realized something that stayed with me. With old friends, you don't need to explain your whole backstory. They already know who you were. And that, in itself, is a rare gift. Because as we age, we sometimes feel invisible in a world that seems to move faster and younger every year. But reconnecting with someone who remembers you before all the layers of adulthood piled on, it's grounding. It reminds you who you really are. That sense of continuity is important. Psychologists call it narrative identity, the internal story we tell ourselves about who we are. And old friends, they help you fill in the gaps. They remember the parts of you that you may have forgotten. The dreamer, the prankster, the hopeless romantic. It's powerful to feel seen, not as the person you've become, but as the full version of yourself. And I'll be honest, at first I hesitated. I had doubts. Would they even want to hear from me? Would it be awkward? What if we had nothing in common anymore? But here's the thing, almost every single person I reached out to responded with joy, even surprise. Many of them said something along the lines of, I've been thinking about you too, but wasn't sure if I should reach out. Isn't that something? We're all waiting for someone else to go first. So if you're sitting there thinking about an old friend, someone who once mattered deeply, maybe this is your sign to be the one who reaches out. A call, a message, even just a simple, hey, I was thinking about you. That's all it takes to reopen the door. Of course, not every reconnection was seamless. Some fizzled out after a short catch-up. And that's okay too. Not every friendship is meant to last forever. But some are just waiting to be reignited. And what I discovered is that the ones that stuck, the ones that felt like coming home, brought a richness and joy back into my life that I didn't even know I'd been missing. Reconnecting with old friends gave me more than memories. It gave me a deeper sense of belonging, a feeling that no matter where life had taken us, we were still part of each other's stories. And that's just the beginning. In the next part, I'll tell you about the emotional hurdles I faced and how I overcame them. Because while reconnecting brought a lot of joy, it also stirred up some unexpected emotions. But leaning into those feelings, that's where real growth happened. Before we begin, I want to make one thing clear. This video is for informational purposes only and is based on publicly available research. Everyone's health is different, so always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, or exercise routine. Scientific knowledge is always evolving, and what works for one person may not work for another. Now, let's keep going. You know, when I first started reaching out to old friends, I expected it to be all smiles and laughs. And don't get me wrong, there was plenty of that. But what I didn't expect was the wave of emotion that hit me along the way. Joy, sure, but also guilt, regret, even a little bit of sadness. It was like opening a drawer I hadn't looked inside for years, one filled with dusty, fragile keepsakes. Some made me smile. Others made me pause and swallow hard. I remember reaching out to Susan, one of my closest friends from high school. We hadn't spoken in over 30 years. Life had simply gotten in the way, marriages, children, moves across the country. When we finally got on a video call, we both cried. Not because anything bad had happened, but because we suddenly felt all the time that had passed. It's strange to feel so connected, and yet realize how much life we'd missed in each other's stories. That moment reminded me that reconnecting isn't just about picking up where you left off. It's also about healing, about making peace with the time lost. And the science backs that up too. Emotional processing is deeply connected to social connection. According to research from the University of Chicago, people with strong social support systems tend to have better emotional regulation. Simply put, when we talk things through with people who knew us before life got complicated, it helps us process feelings we might not even realize we've been carrying. That's what happened with my friend Larry. We hadn't spoken since our late 20s, after a minor falling out that, at the time, seemed like a big deal. I don't even remember what the argument was about, but when I reached out hesitantly, he surprised me with, "I've thought about calling you for years." We talked for hours that night. It turned out we'd both been holding on to something we didn't need to carry anymore. Just that one conversation lightened my heart in a way I hadn't expected. Of course, not every reconnection had a fairy tale ending. Some people had changed a lot, and our paths no longer aligned. One old coworker I messaged never responded. Another seemed uninterested in rekindling anything. That stung a bit, I won't lie. But I learned not to take it personally. People grow. They evolve. And sometimes, part of reconnecting is also learning when to gracefully let go. The thing is, the more people I reached out to, the more I noticed something else, a quiet hunger. Not just mine, but theirs too. A craving for meaningful connection. One friend told me, "It's like you reminded me who I used to be before life got so serious." That hit me hard, because I knew exactly what he meant. As we age, it's easy to fall into roles, parent, grandparent, retiree. But we're more than our titles. We're collections of stories, laughter, inside jokes, and memories only a handful of people share. And old friends? They're the keepers of those memories. Reconnecting with them helped me reconnect with myself. And there's a surprising bonus I hadn't counted on. It made me feel younger. Not in the superficial, try this face cream kind of way, but in spirit. When I laughed with old friends, when we teased each other about our bad hairstyles or awkward fashion choices from decades ago, I felt lighter, freer. According to a study in the Journal of Aging and Health, older adults who maintain active social lives often report higher levels of vitality and self-esteem. It's not magic, it's connection. But here's something else that's worth talking about: the vulnerability it takes to reach out. In a world that constantly tells us to stay strong, to move on, to leave the past behind, it can feel awkward, scary even to say, "I miss you." But vulnerability is where the good stuff lives. Reaching out wasn't always easy, but every time I did it, I felt braver, more human. One night, I messaged an old friend I hadn't seen since we were both young parents. I was nervous. Would she think it was weird? Would she even remember me clearly? But within minutes, she responded with, "I've missed you. I'm so glad you reached out." That one message opened up months of ongoing connection, book exchanges, phone calls, even plans for a trip. It never would have happened if I'd let the fear win. So, if you're watching this and feeling that little nudge, maybe there's a name popping into your mind right now, don't ignore it. That feeling might be your heart saying, it's time. In the next part, I want to talk about how these reconnections started changing my day-to-day life, my mental health, my routines, even how I approached getting older. Because this wasn't just a feel-good moment. It had real, lasting effects. And if you're someone who's felt isolated or stuck lately, what comes next might open a door you didn't know was closed. It's amazing how something as simple as a phone call, or even a text, can ripple through your entire life in ways you didn't expect. Once I started reconnecting with old friends, it wasn't just my social calendar that changed. It was how I felt when I woke up in the morning, how I moved through the day, how I saw myself. You know that feeling when you've been stuck in a rut for a while and suddenly, someone pulls you out just by reminding you who you used to be? That's what happened. These conversations brought back old dreams, forgotten stories, and inside jokes that made me laugh out loud. They reminded me that I was more than my routine, more than the aches and pains of getting older. I was still me, just with a little more life under my belt. What I didn't expect, though, was just how much my mental health improved. There's actually a strong link between social connection and lower rates of depression and anxiety. The Mayo Clinic points out that adults with strong social support are less likely to experience significant emotional decline as they age. And let me tell you, feeling seen, heard, and valued by people who knew you before you had to earn every title in your life, that's incredibly grounding. I started sleeping better. I felt less anxious. Even my posture changed. I caught myself walking taller, smiling more, making plans. And I wasn't the only one. One friend told me she felt like she'd reclaimed a part of her spirit just by rekindling old friendships. It's like these connections gave us permission to feel fully alive again. Now, that doesn't mean the path was perfectly smooth. There were some challenges that cropped up along the way, emotional ones mostly. For instance, I realized that time and distance had shifted some of my values and perspectives. With one friend in particular, we found ourselves at opposite ends of a conversation, different lifestyles, different beliefs. And for a moment, I thought, maybe this isn't going to work. But then something beautiful happened. Instead of letting the difference divide us, we leaned into it. We listened. We laughed at how stubborn we'd both become. And in the end, we agreed to keep connecting, not because we agreed on everything, but because we still mattered to each other. That kind of emotional flexibility, that's a skill worth practicing at any age. One thing I learned through all of this is how easy it is, especially after retirement, to fall into a rhythm where life gets smaller. You go to the same places, talk to the same people, maybe even stop pushing yourself to try new things. Reconnecting with old friends? It broke that rhythm in the best way. It added new texture to my weeks, sudden lunch dates, unexpected calls, shared articles and videos, even travel plans. I ended up joining a weekly walking group started by two friends I'd reconnected with. Nothing fancy, just strolls in the park, sometimes with coffee in hand, always with good conversation. But those walks became something I looked forward to. They pulled me out of the house, out of my head. They reminded me that movement, conversation, and laughter are some of the best medicine we have, and they're completely free. In fact, there's research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships showing that regular interaction with familiar people, even brief encounters, can significantly reduce feelings of loneliness. And loneliness, as the former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy has pointed out, can be as harmful to our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That statistic alone shocked me, but it also made me grateful that I didn't wait any longer to reach out. One of the most touching reconnections happened with someone I hadn't spoken to since our kids were little. We'd both been busy raising families, building careers, barely had time to breathe, let alone call each other. But once we reconnected, it was like we picked up where we left off. We started sharing stories about our grown kids, swapping favorite books, even reminiscing about the chaos of school pickups and packed lunches. It reminded me that friendships built during tough seasons, parenthood, caregiving, career building, are especially strong. They carry a kind of unspoken bond that lasts, even in silence. And you know what else I discovered? These old friends were some of the best support I had when newer challenges arose. When I went through a minor health scare last year, it was these reconnected friends who showed up in the most unexpected ways. Not out of obligation, but because they wanted to. One sent me homemade soup. Another texted jokes daily to keep my spirits up. These gestures, small as they were, meant the world to me. They reminded me I wasn't alone. That's the thing about aging that we don't talk about enough. It's not just about managing your physical health. It's about keeping your emotional world alive and well. And friendships, especially ones built on shared history, are one of the strongest pillars you can lean on. Now, if you're still on the fence about reaching out to someone from your past, I get it. It's vulnerable. It can be uncomfortable. But here's what I'd say. What's scarier, sending a message that might go unanswered, or never knowing what joy might have come from it? One takes a moment of courage. The other leaves a quiet ache that never really goes away. So if you've got someone in mind, even one person, why not take that step today? You never know what's waiting on the other side of, "Hey, I was thinking about you." In our final part coming up, I'll wrap things up with some of the biggest lessons I've learned from this journey, along with simple, practical ways you can start reconnecting, even if it's been years. Trust me, it's never too late to find your way back to meaningful connection. You've come this far with me, and I just want to say thank you. Sharing this journey of reconnecting with old friends has been deeply personal, and if any part of it sparked a memory or stirred something in your heart, I hope you'll hold on to that feeling, because it means something. It means you're still open, still curious, still growing. Looking back, I can honestly say that choosing to reach out to people from my past has been one of the most fulfilling decisions I've made since turning 60. It didn't require a huge lifestyle change. It didn't cost a thing. But the return on investment? Immeasurable. If I had to sum up the biggest takeaway, it's this: we never outgrow the need to feel connected. We may get older. Our bodies may change. Our responsibilities may shift. But the human need for community, for understanding, for shared laughter and old stories, that never fades. And the beautiful part? The people who knew you way back when, they still remember the version of you that maybe even you forgot. Reconnecting with them is like being handed a mirror that shows your truest self. I also learned that healing doesn't always require deep therapy sessions or monumental life changes. Sometimes it starts with a simple message. "Hey, I thought of you today." It's incredible how something that small can reopen doors you thought were permanently shut. Doors to laughter, forgiveness, memories, and even brand new beginnings. If you're wondering where to begin, here's what worked for me, and might just work for you too. I started by writing down 5 names. Just 5 people I used to be close with. Some from high school, others from early career days, a few from parenting years. Then I picked one and sent a message. It wasn't perfect. I probably rewrote it 3 times. But I sent it. And that was the point. That one step turned into a second, and then a third, like lighting candles in a room that had grown dim. Each connection added warmth back into my life. Even if it's been decades, even if you're not sure what to say, just start with honesty. Something like, "It's been a long time, but I was thinking of you and wanted to say hello." You don't have to dive into anything heavy. Let the conversation grow naturally. Some might fade out quickly. Others might surprise you. But either way, you'll know you gave yourself the chance to reconnect. And for those who worry about rejection, yes, that's a real possibility. But rejection doesn't erase your worth. It doesn't diminish the beauty of trying. It simply means that particular path isn't open right now. And that's okay. There are always others. Here's something else to remember. This isn't just about friendship. It's about wellness. According to a 2023 meta-analysis published in Nature Human Behavior, strong social ties are directly linked to lower mortality rates, better immune function, and decreased risk of chronic illnesses like heart disease and cognitive decline. The data is clear. Connection isn't just good for the heart emotionally. It's good for the heart literally. I often think about one old friend I reconnected with who told me, "I didn't realize how lonely I was until you called." That stuck with me, because I'd felt the same way. Sometimes we don't even notice the silence around us until someone breaks it with kindness. So if you're watching this and there's a little tug in your heart, don't brush it aside. Listen to it, Act on it. You're never too old, and it's never too late. In fact, I'd argue there's no better time than now. You've got the life experience. You've got stories worth sharing. You've got wisdom that only comes with age. And believe it or not, someone out there remembers you fondly. They might just be waiting for you to take the first step. And if you're someone who feels like you don't have any old friendships to return to, know this. Every old friend started as a stranger. It's never too late to create new old friends, if that makes sense. Start where you are. Say yes to the coffee invitation. Join the book club. Volunteer. Engage. Community is built, one conversation at a time. We'd really love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future topics or questions you want answered, write to us in the comments below. We're here to help, and your input could inspire our next video. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on more practical tips for healthy aging. Here's to living your best life at any age.